Hello, everyone. I'm nervous. Rebecca, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Can everybody hear us?
Let's
Do we know if anybody
see.
hears us? I got my back up here, just in case. Here, Nick. I'll have you get on here and see if you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, I can't go to your channel on my phone. That's right.
Oh, I just heard myself talking.
They can hear us.
They can hear us great.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here and supporting all of this. The reason why we are starting this channel is to help with the missing and the injustice. And I don't even know. I'm going to start crying now.
Nope, you put your mascara on.
I know. I got mascara on. I can't cry. Anyway, here's all the signs that I make. And that's the whole point of starting this channel, was to help other people that's gone through this, that have lost their loved ones or missing loved ones. So I just want to help with the foundation to help them get the paperwork they need and do the investigations, because it becomes a family issue at this point to do your own investigations. I wish they would start a missing persons, what do you call it? What do you call it, Rebecca? Help me. I mean, not Holly.
Missing persons.
Like an agency. You know, you got the Highway Patrol. I know the Highway Patrol is the ones that help with find the missing.
Oh, okay. So
They
like a missing person division.
Yeah, missing person division would be perfect, because they're throwing, not that I'm giving the Highway Patrol break by no means, but then it wouldn't be on them. They could do their other jobs, and then we'd have a person that, division that would help everybody that has missing loved ones in their lives.
Right.
Gosh, you guys, thank you for being here.
Because as you found out, missing persons case versus a case where somebody, has died under mysterious circumstances are very different cases.
Yeah. And I mean, like when I went to the police department, I couldn't get him to come out of the police station to even look for him. And that's stunned me. Well, how can you not have somebody that comes out when you know somebody's missing and look for them?
Right.
So that would be an idea thing to start, is to get a task force that look for just missing people. As you
Right.
see my beautiful shirt.
Timmy t-shirt.
My Timmy t-shirt, my bracelets. And then I made fans. And this is what I'm talking about with the paper. It's got Timmy's story on it, and I've got them for everybody. And then, well, I got short on being able to print them out. So what I started doing was, on the last page, I just hashtag everybody in that area. Can you see that?
Yep.
And that's what the paper and stuff's about, is making copies and helping people get out and get their loved ones found.
You made one of those boards for everybody that's been missing, correct?
Oh, yes. Oh, look, I got boards right here that I've made too. Other boards, like justice boards. I got justice boards. I got a whole thing here of different people's boards. And then over here, I've got these.
Okay.
And it's on both sides, so you can put it on a stick and carry it around if you want. Or I take these to the Capitol, and then when I take them to the Capitol, I sit them on a chair by itself, each one of these.
Right.
That way that when you see this on a chair, you know that this person's a human being and they're missing. And they need to be found. Everybody I'm showing you are still missing. See?
Oh, wow.
And then this girl here, became friends with one of her friends. And she's missing out of the Lake of the Ozarks. This one's a really crazy story. We'll have to cover it one night. But I got those things, and then I've got, well, I'm just going to turn my computer up a little bit so you guys can see all the pictures. And see the one in the back has got everybody's picture on it. Can you see that?
Could you maybe get a little closer? How long does one of these boards usually take you to make?
The big boards, they take a good hour or two. The small boards, they take, well, no, the bigger boards are actually faster to use than the smaller boards, because the big boards, all I'm putting on top of them is justice.
Right.
But the smaller boards, because I could not afford to keep buying letters, so I made my own stencils in each size, and then I just copy, trace them, and then I take markers and color them in to make them bright like these, because like this one, I just take a different color. So it stands out. It makes it stand out more.
Right.
But I'm not going to leave my living room like this. I just figured that this today and for our next live, I would decorate like this because it takes a lot of time for one. And
right.
It gives you an idea of what I'm doing. Like this is the last one I made. I'll get closer to it. Don't you like that green?
Yes.
And it's got everybody's picture on there, and it's got their names and its hashtags, so you could just go straight to their page and see what their story's about.
Okay.
But yeah, there's lots of them. And then we got Ashley over here. Let me get her over here so you can see her. And then there's Ashley's. Can you see her?
Yep.
So that's the whole point of doing the podcast, was to help families get their stories out, just have a platform. Because there's a lot that you go through when you have a missing child.
Right.
With Timmy, I'm blessed, truly blessed. That was only 5 months. But I'll tell you, I get injections every 2 weeks now in the back of my arms from stress, from eczema. I know it's not called that. It's pronounced another way, but that has started. I'd get in the shower and my hair would literally fall out like I was a cancer patient. It was bad.
Right.
I mean, it's better now, but my hair would you'd feel it just falling off my back from the stress of it all. So when Timmy was found, it was a bittersweet moment. You're so grateful that you know where they are.
Right.
That they're gone. In which I'll see them again, I know, but not here on Earth. But that was the whole point of trying to get all of this together, because I really do want to help with missing. And
so can you maybe explain to us, just so that people understand, what was what was it like having to get the records from the police and everything? What were all of the steps that you had to go through? Because you couldn't just send a note to the highway patrol and say, give me everything you've got on Timmy's case. You had to go through so much more than that to get all of the records after his case was closed. So that's what we want to, what we really want to help people with, because it ended up costing a lot more than you expected it to. It ended up taking a lot longer than you expected it to.
Yes. And there's it's called the Sunshine Law in the state of Missouri. It's not called the Sunshine Law in every state, but there is one in every state. So I mean, it's when they're missing, you don't really want to do that because you don't want to do the Sunshine Law when they're still missing, because when you do that, you don't get the full investigation.
Right.
But once a person is found, you definitely want to do all. You want to ask for the whole investigation, and if you do it too soon, you won't get everything. Which I can prove I didn't get everything anyway, but that's besides the point. But you have to file the Sunshine Law requests to every entity. So I had to send one to the Highway Patrol, the sheriff, the city police, everybody that's involved in the case that's had in law enforcement that had anything to do with your case. You have to file that paperwork to. And what I did was because I wanted to make sure they got it. They have 72 hours in the state of Missouri to let you know they've received it. After they've given you the 17 or 72 hours saying that they've gotten it, then they got 30 days to give you all the information. If they don't give you all that information within the 30 days, then they have to call you and give you a reasonable explanation on why they haven't sent it to you. And it cost by the page or a flash drive, but it cost me $560, and that was just for the Highway Patrol. That wasn't the coroner, that wasn't the sheriff and Monroe, the detective that was on the case from where I live in the beginning. No.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of why we started this, was because I like to help people learn how to file for their paperwork and the stuff that they need.
Right.
And honestly, it's a roller coaster ride, the whole thing.
Right. I mean, I came in to Timmy's case about
Right after
maybe a month after he was found.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for the missing part of it, but I was there from about a month after he was found until now. And man, we have been through so much, you and me. I mean, doing conference calls to call the coroner because he wouldn't answer the phone, doing conference calls to call the funeral home because they wouldn't answer the phone to you. You know, the things we had to do to get all of this stuff was just insane.
Well, I just want to honor my boys. Well, Jesus first, then my boys, and help others to be able to get through this, because I don't know what I would have done if I wouldn't have had people like Arctic and you and Mr. Steve from True Crime Web. That foundation is absolutely wonderful. Those are prayers answered. And Arctic, I don't even know how he came into my life. I just remember sitting here, and then all of a sudden my phone rings. I answer, and he said, "I'm so and so from a podcast." I'm like, "What's a podcast?"
Right? Like, I'd love to have Arctic up here to tell us, like, how he found you, and like, I really want to know his point of view from the missing, when Timmy went missing, to when he was found, because I wasn't here at that time. And actually, Arctic is the one who asked me to step in that month after Timmy was found, because he was struggling. He had worked really hard with you to find Timmy. And I know that it was a struggle for him after Timmy was found. And so he asked me to step in, and that's what I did. And that's why I'm here and have been here for 2.5 years now.
Well, and then Arctic, I know I put him through some stress because he was all I knew. He was the one person that was there from the very beginning. So in the evenings, I'd call him up, or I'd hear stories about things that had happened to Timmy. Horrifying stories that you'd be surprised how cruel some people can be. Some of the stories that they would say that happened to Timmy. And I would just call Arctic and I'd just cry.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always there and helped support me get through. Just get through. Shoot, I'd call him from the courthouse
Right.
because I didn't know who else to talk to. I didn't know where else to go, and I trusted Arctic because he was just like so wonderful to me. I was stunned that even like True Crime Web Foundation, huh, you don't expect anybody to do anything for you for free,
Right.
and to get that kind of help, and then doesn't cost you anything. Oh my gosh!
Because it was a surprise, you know. I know when we first started talking about the second autopsy, and I made those phone calls to find out that the second autopsy itself was going to cost, what was it, like 5,000?
Yes, it was $5,000 exactly,
And then you had to do the DNA test.
which was
And I,
1,500.
I'm sorry to bring that up. I know that that was something you really didn't want to do, but in
Well,
the
I
end,
think
just to have a little bit of clarity and to be 100% sure, because they never did a DNA test to find out if it was Timmy. That was something you had to do on your own.
right.
Um,
Well, and I could not even imagine living my life without having the paperwork that I have. I mean, it's hard to live life anyway,
and
but
how long did it take? It took what, a
before
year and
I
a
got,
half?
it took, well, I got everything except for the highway patrols. It took 6 months.
That took an extra 6 months.
It took six
Um,
months from the time, yeah, which is unreal. That's not supposed to
and
be.
that was them redacting
Yes.
names and things out of the files, out
So,
of
yes.
the recordings.
Yeah. And then when I would call them, they would say, well, it's taking us longer because there's nudity. I'm like, okay. And then she
Like
tried
what
calling,
nudity?
I don't know. But
I
then
don't know. I've never seen any pictures where somebody's running around naked.
either, but
I've never heard of anything where somebody was running around there naked. So I don't get where the nudity came from.
I think it was an excuse to have more time not to send me the stuff. Because when I got the coroner's report, I read over it and everything. Everything looked fine, because I don't know what I'm really looking at. I looked at the bones, I looked at everything, and so it looked like an autopsy report.
But
So,
there was one thing that we did notice on the autopsy report. Remember that?
oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. So then when I got the pictures finally 6 months later from the highway patrol and looked at the pictures, I was like, wait a minute. I knew his bottom tooth was out because I had asked him about it because that was in their report. So I had called and asked him about it, and they said his tooth fell out on its own. That's just what happens. And I thought, well, that don't make sense because the shoe looked pretty clean to me. But I didn't know any better, so I just didn't say anything. And then one night we were sitting around the house looking at the pictures, Jimmy and I at that time. And it's like, wait a minute, that top tooth's gone too. So sorry, my eyes itching. So I called him and asked him about that, and they said, well, they didn't know anything about it. So then I took it to the prosecutor, showed it to him, and he said he was going to see what he could do about it. He called the highway patrol, he called me back. He swore I called the highway patrol, and the highway patrol told me that maybe they had to do reconstruction because to make sure there's not a crime committed. Well, a crime's committed if your top tooth and your bottom tooth's gone, and he had a permanent retainer in his bottom teeth. And
right.
that's in the middle where that is gone, where the permanent retainer, that doesn't happen that way with it.
Well, what gets to me is that the teeth that the permanent retainer were on are still there,
There's one
but the
tooth.
retainer's gone. How does that happen?
There are one tooth missing and the retainer's gone.
Right. But not
Well,
one of the
it's
teeth
called
that
a
the
permanent
retainer
retainer
was
for a reason.
right. but not one of but the tooth that the permanent retainer was on was not that front tooth that's missing.
It was in the front and the bottom. He had
Right.
the permanent retainer on his bottom teeth, front
Right.
bottom teeth. And then the middle tooth is missing in the retainer because the retainer went across the bottom parts of his teeth, but it was on the the inside behind his teeth. So you wouldn't have seen it if you looked at it.
Right.
And that tooth's missing, and then the top tooth's missing right above it. So how did them two teeth get knocked out of his mouth? They didn't just fall out.
Right.
Because I started doing all kinds of looking at bones. I know that might sound morbid, but I did not know what to do. I just wanted answers to what happened to him. And I knew that something happened to him. I know Timmy didn't call 911 and ask for help and then go lay in the woods and die like they were trying to tell me.
Right.
And people don't call 911 unless they, if they want to die. You call 911 for help. So I was suspicious of everything at that point. And then when I noticed the top tooth gone and they put it back, that stunned me.
Mm-hmm. And then one other thing, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but one of the other things that we found when we got the paperwork all together was that there was a forensic anthropologist that looked at Timmy's remains, but she did not sign off on the autopsy.
She didn't sign off. I made a complaint. Then the second one I got, she signed. But they're all these cases and lots of deaths. In Missouri, the pathologist is Diediker. And that seems to have become a problem because I've talked to a lot of people and they have lost loved ones. And every one of his autopsies are questionable.
Mm-hmm.
From all the families I've talked to. So
and there are some of his autopsy findings that have been reversed or turned over by second autopsies and so on. That's one of the reasons why we got Timmy a second autopsy, correct?
Correct. And his left hand was completely gone. And a few of his toes is what they're saying. But then when I spoke with Arctic, as you know, because you were in the picture by then when Arctic told me to go take pictures of him.
I came in right at that time. Yep.
Okay. Well, then when I went and took my pictures of him, and you look at the coroner's pictures, his bones are all cleaned. It says in the coroner's report that they took a light, brittle, soapy water and cleaned the bones.
Right.
But when you look at the pictures I took at the funeral home, which was after, his bones are dirty.
Right.
So that's why it was like, I got to get a DNA test done because now I'm not so sure these bones are his because it didn't make sense that at the funeral home they're dirty, but they had him cleaned in the pictures I got from them.
Right.
So.
And I don't know this, but what I'm guessing is that they took his remains after they were done with the autopsy and put them back in the bag that they brought him in. And
that's the first thing I thought. That was the first, because
that's what it looks like. Because when his remains were on the table for the pictures that you took, there was dirt, there was grass, there was there was debris from the bag.
But the problem is when you look close at those pictures and then you look close at the pictures I got from them, you can't just throw them bones in a bag and then get that much dirt inside and
yes, exactly.
It just doesn't make sense. None of it. So
just add that to the list of, what doesn't make sense in this case.
Well, I was praying for justice for Timmy. And after that, I just pray that maybe something good could come. Well, I know something good will come out of it because that's what God says. So giving me the strength to help other people do what they need to do to get the answers that they need as far as doing investigations.
Right.
That's my whole point in doing this, is to help other people not have to live this nightmare. Because, I mean, like, I just lost Michael. And
Right.
I tried everything to help my son, Michael. But he had mental issues, and it's not easy to get a grown adult child of your kids mental health if they're grown.
Right.
So that was a nightmare going through that. And then I lost him because between the mental health, he got on drugs, and then fentanyl killed him.
How long before Timmy went missing did Michael pass? About 8 months.
Michael died June 19th, 2021.
And Timmy went missing
February
February
28th,
28th.
2022. Yeah, so I've lost both my kids in an 8-month period. I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know how I'm standing.
And I'm not. I know you haven't put much out there about Michael, but there's definitely some justice that needs to come for him too.
Well, yeah, there was a woman that was with my son, Michael, 2 days before he died. She came here with my son. She was my age, and I was aggravated because Michael didn't look right. And she was out on my porch, so I went out there and confronted her. I said, "What's going on with my son?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "I got a picture that I had taken of Michael 2 weeks prior to that happening." And I said, "That in there doesn't even look like my son." I said, "What are you guys doing?" She goes, "Oh, I'll take care of him. I'll take care of him. It's all good. It's all good." And then they left. But she's saying that she never got in Michael's car. She never touched his car or anything. He was coming out of a hotel room at 2:00 in the morning with a plate of pizza rolls and a Mountain Dew can of Mountain Dew. And she said she didn't touch the car, but they have her on camera rummaging through the car. Well, while she's rummaging through the car, she's saying Michael was alive. Well, you can ask anybody in my family or anything. If Michael was alive, he wouldn't have just been sitting in that car. Michael was very hyper. He wouldn't have just been sitting there letting her rummage through his car. So she got away with it. She said when she left to go to work at 5:00 in the morning, he was alive in that car. And she told the police she didn't touch the car either, but they have her on video rummaging through the car.
Right.
And that fight's coming too. I will fight that fight because I know her name. And
I mean, by no means, I don't think that she, is involved in his death.
well,
but
she did dope with him, and she didn't die.
Right. And
So
I think that she
should have called the
definitely
police.
tampered with things. If she's going and rummaging through his car and he's
And left him there all day dead,
sitting there.
5.
Yeah,
died.
that's
Okay. He come out of the hotel room at 2:00 in the morning. At 5:00 in the morning, she is rummaging through the car. She leaves, and Michael doesn't get found until 6:00 that evening. So she let him sit in that car in June with the windows up. He did not have his keys. He did not have his phone. No. Michael if he was in that car, he had his keys and his phone, and he was jamming music. That's what Michael did.
right.
So, no, anything she says like that, I would not believe her, because she's telling the police that when she walked away from the car, Michael was alive. There's no way. So he sat and rotted in that car until a stranger saw him and called the police. Michael would have not sat in that car with no keys, with all the windows up on July 19th. Come on. I mean, June 19th. Sorry. I get June, July, because we found Timmy in July. So them 2 months are kind of
a blur.
No. Sometimes
I'm sure that year and a half, 2 years was a blur.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it was like, I knew I just wanted to try to keep myself strong and okay for Timmy. I knew I had to be okay for Timmy, So with Michael, it was just like, God, watching that mental illness with the drugs and watching somebody pretty much killing themselves and they're your kid and you cannot do anything about it. It is the hardest thing in the world. I mean,
Right.
you can beg them. I went to a judge. I had him held for I got him for 92-hour hold. First I had to go to a counselor, sat down with the counselor, told the counselor what was going on. So she filled out this paperwork. I had to take it over to the courthouse and give it to the judge, and then the judge signed off on it, and then they put Michael in the hospital for a 92-hour hold. But that didn't do any good because after the 92 hours, they just threw him out, and they threw him out with these medications that were $400 and $500 that he couldn't afford to pay for. So, yeah.
So was Michael ever diagnosed?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael, he started having problems when he was about 16 years old was when I really noticed it. He got a girlfriend, fell in love, and that didn't work out. And then he just became another person. He started hanging around different people, everything.
And I think you and I have talked about this a number of times, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to Timmy's case is that Michael is so much like my oldest son, and Timmy is so much like my youngest. Michael was the sensitive type, he was the one that always wanted to make everybody happy. He was the one that he just loved with his whole heart and wanted so desperately for people to accept him and to like him. And when those things came along that upset him, he just didn't know how to deal. So he found other ways to learn how to deal with it, and obviously they weren't healthy, or for him they weren't what he needed.
Honestly, when a person has mental issues and then they get on drugs, it's hard to be around them. It really is. I mean, they talk 100 miles an hour. You can't watch TV. You can't do anything because they're constantly talking. I mean, I would go in the other room to get away from Michael sometimes because he didn't stop talking. And I would even say, Michael, could you please not talk for a minute? Just so I could breathe. It was that bad, and he just didn't see it at all. And Timmy took that upon himself. So after Michael had passed, Timmy stayed with me that whole week. So we did a lot of crying together, and we cooked, and we went to church, and we watched TV, movies, all those pictures you see are they're that weak because I realized I didn't have very many pictures of Michael. So I started taking a lot more pictures of Timmy. Every time we was doing something, I snapping a picture. And then, I sat here. The day Timmy left here, this earring I got in my ear, he sat on my counter and he goes, Mom, it's bothering my ear. And it's a cross. It's turning even ugly. I don't care. It was his, so I still have it in my ear. And he said, I'm going to sit this here. It's bothering my ear. I'll get it from you later. And I said, okay. And I stuck my hand right on top of his head. And I said, hey, Timmy, you're covered by the blood of Jesus, right? And he just grinned at me and he smiled and he goes, yeah, Mom. And he hugged me, told me he loved me, and he left. That was the last time I saw him.
And there was somebody who was there at that time who witnessed that.
Oh, yes. Timmy's friend from work, his name's Clapper, is the person that came and picked Timmy up from here. And that's this person that Caleb is saying that he picked Timmy up from his house, but the police never talked to him.
Right.
And
Caleb's version of events is stupid. Just flat out.
Oh, yeah. He's saying that Timmy was he was under too much pressure. I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. Pressure. I know he was grieving his brother, but we wasn't putting him through any pressure. Timmy was hurting. I knew he was hurting.
Right.
So
I listened to that one interview or not interview, but when the video cam footage of him and his sister talking, and I was like, this dude is so just everything out of his mouth is a crock. Everything that he says is such a lie. I remember him saying, well, Timmy called me all upset and I needed to come get him. Bullshit, Caleb.
No, he's saying that Timmy called him crying. I do not believe that for a minute. I don't believe that.
It was planned. It was a planned thing for him to go and see Caleb. So why Caleb all of a sudden?
It had to have been a plan because Timmy would have told me about it because Timmy was here. Where Caleb picked Timmy up at is not very far from my house. If Timmy was having a problem, I could have went and picked up Timmy. Unless they had some kind of plan, is the only reason why Caleb would have came all the way up here to St. Louis to pick him up.
Exactly. Wow. He is something special. The stupidity, the amount of stupid crap that has come out of his mouth. It blows my mind. How he said, that Timmy found some woman's identification and was going to take this woman's identification and change his identity and run off.
Yeah, he's going on the run under the woman's name.
Dude, really? I mean, Timmy was pretty, but he's not that pretty, okay? He's
handsome.
I mean, what a stupid thing to say. And for anybody to believe that, it's just, wow.
There's so many things that aren't answered. Like, why did he have a tracker in his pocket?
That tracker, we're going to find out about that tracker, I'm telling you.
The tracker, there's just so many unanswered.
If Timmy bought it, why did he feel like he needed a tracker around Caleb?
I don't know.
If he was the one that bought it.
He's with him.
I mean, it's just...
And then Caleb makes sure in one of them interviews that he's telling Winter, his sister, that Timmy bought one.
Right. Well, why is it, Caleb, that Timmy needed a tracker to be around you?
Or any of your friends.
Right? Because he didn't need a tracker to be around you.
No. Timmy was planning on coming back here. I didn't think anything of Timmy. It was Friday.
Right.
He's 25 years old.
Yeah, he's a young man.
On Friday night. So
I didn't, I wasn't hanging out with my mom on a Friday night.
No. I mean, when Timmy was younger, we'd play dominoes and we'd play cards and
right.
Yahtzee, all that stuff. That was our weekend things. But I just don't want Timmy's life to be in vain. And he had this heart that would give anybody anything that he had. So if I don't know. I just want to help other people not have to live this nightmare.
And that's why you want to start Timmy's legacy.
Right.
What can you tell everybody why Timmy's legacy? Why that is what we chose for our foundation?
For the name? Yeah. Well, this is here. You've walked in front of the camera. Come on over here and introduce yourself. This is Timmy's brother, really, Nick. Say hi, Nick.
Hi.
He shared a bedroom with Timmy when he's little. So the legacy was Timmy was in the slower classes and he was embarrassed about it. And I not really said too much about that, but Timmy didn't like being in the slower classes, but he was tested and he had learning disabilities. So they were talking about at school when he was 17 about what he was going to do with his future. And he called me up and he was all concerned about what he was going to do. he goes, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything, Mom." His self-esteem just wasn't good because of being in the slower classes. He didn't think he could, do something great. And I said, "Well, Timmy," I said, "I don't think you really need to worry about it right now." I was just trying to comfort him. And then he's like, "Well, I know whatever I do, I just want to leave a legacy." So that's why that's the name and why it's so important to me, because Timmy wanted to leave a legacy and I'm the only one left here to do it for him.
Do you think he'd be happy with what you're doing for him?
Oh, absolutely. That's the one thing I never, ever hurt over, is that with both of my kids, I know how much they love me and I know that they knew how much I love them. I never had to doubt that, ever.
Right. I mean, they're good kids. They just got into things that wasn't good for them.
Well, and then Timmy had that car accident, and he broke his back, his neck, his pelvis, and had a brain bleed, and he had all the skin was ripped off of his hand. And I had heard about that. It was raining, and he was merging to get on the express lane on Highway 70 in St. Louis, headed to work. And when he merged, he hit this little curb, and it threw him 30 feet out of his truck.
Ooh.
And I got a phone call. My mom was having heart surgery. Same night, I was getting ready to go to the hospital for my mom's heart surgery, and I got a phone call that Timmy had gotten an accident, was at the hospital. So I rushed to the hospital, and when I got there, they were taking skin grafts to put on his hand. And
yeah, I've never heard this before.
Yeah, and then they were doing a CAT scan on his head because he had a brain bleed, and they were keeping an eye on that, and he was in the hospital for, Nick, do you remember how long he was in the hospital?
It was for a while.
Yeah, it was for a while, but he said they were going to send him home and let him recoup, and then he was going to have to go to a rehab center, and he said, "I'm not going to no rehab center." He says, "I'm walking right out of here." He said, "I'm going to get better and walk out of here." And that's what he did. And he went straight to the rehab center instead of going home and having to heal first, which was amazing to me. I was pretty proud of that moment, that he was that strong. So, and so he went to the rehab center. He stayed there for about a month, and he got out, and he was on pain pills, and he got addicted to pain pills. So he had a girlfriend at the time that he loved very much, and I believe she loved him. But he ruined that relationship over the pain pills. He knew that. We talked about it. He was hurt that he ruined that. So he went to Florida to a rehab center, and he stayed there for a little over a month. And then I got pneumonia and was in the hospital. I almost died from pneumonia. And he found that out, and he came home. And then he went to the doctor, and he got a shot every month to keep him away from the pain pills.
Okay.
So I did that picture of him sitting there at the Mexican restaurant. That's what we did every month. We went and he got his shot. Then we went over to the Mexican restaurant, and we would eat because he loved hot food, Mexican wings. He liked hot chicken wings. I've gotten to the point, it's taken a while to get there, that I feel and have memories now. I know that might sound a little strange, but when you're going through all this stuff, you don't remember things. It's like your life completely stops. You don't remember nothing. You know what's going on. I mean, I was getting up and I was functioning to get to the car, to get to Fredericktown, and I would listen to the song. It's called Protector. I would listen to the song all the way to Fredericktown. I'd get out, wipe my eyes because I'd cry, listen to that song, and I'd put my boards out, wipe my tears, clean myself up a little bit, and sit at that courthouse. And then at the end of the day, I would put everything back in the car, put that song on, and drive home crying that, I don't know how I did it, to be honest. The only thing I can say is how I did it was God gave me the strength to do it, because sometimes when I sit here, I still wonder, how did I do that? because
Right.
it's like a blur. My life was just a complete blur at that time.
Well, and it was for a long time. I mean, you and I during that time were talking a lot, and I'd go to work and be there for 18 hours a day, and we'd talk on the way to work, we'd talk on my way home from work,
Yeah,
we'd talk on my breaks,
yeah,
that was, and it was always about what we were going to do next, what's our next step, going through the autopsy, second autopsy process, making sure that you were and making your phone calls, getting the information from this person and that person, conference calls with Bob, because Bob also did so much
well,
research and some open records requests to try to find out, things like what actually happened to the 911 call, because there's questions. There's questions about how lightning strikes so many times during one case and takes out all of Timmy's information.
leaving.
Yeah, I go
Okay.
see the boys.
All right. Well, and the thing with
And Bob
it,
did just so much. And I remember
well, you
him.
know how I met Bob, don't you?
I don't.
I met Bob by Jesse Wilfon. You know about Jesse Wilfon's case, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, she saw that I was looking for Timmy in Fredericktown. And I saw a post on one of their websites, because I was on their websites posting Timmy missing and stuff all the time, every night. I was on there every night. And she put a post out saying that her daughter was missing, and please, she didn't want to get her daughter in trouble, so please contact me.
And
Well,
that's Ashley, correct?
no, that's
Oh,
Jesse
Jesse.
Wilfon.
The two of them went to missing around the same time, right?
No, Ashley, I don't know. No,
Not
Ashley's the one
Jesse.
that hung herself on a shower curtain rod.
No, Jesse and
Yeah, Jesse Wilfon.
Timmy.
Yeah, she went missing right after Timmy.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
I was told that she was picked up at the McDonald's in Fredericktown and brought to Millardsville. Well, the thing with Jessie was she was only 20 years old. And I've gotten to become really good friends with her mother. And so her mother contacted me and asked me how to get a flyer made so we could get this flyer out to, get her found. And they even had a fundraiser done in Mark One, Missouri, which is Madison County, which that was even crazy. I went to that to support her. And there's drug houses right next to the schools. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but it is. There's drug houses next to the schools. It's horrible to look around. We're sitting in the park and we're watching people come in and out of the drug house, coming over, picking through stuff to buy. It was heartbreaking. And then she was found, though, and her uncle is in jail right now and the problem with all that is her uncle is intertwined with all the other people. Like James Wade. Jesse started hanging out with James Wade's daughters, and she got on drugs. And her uncle was involved with all these people too, and that's what happened. He's in jail, and I don't even think they've had court yet, but he is being charged with his girlfriend for her murder.
How long was she missing? Do you remember?
A few months.
Okay.
Yeah, she was found a month or two. It wasn't a whole long time. They knew what they were doing. My light just went out. But so she knew Bob Miller because her husband knew Bob Miller from the Lawless Files. And she was just really sweet to me, I guess, because I helped her. I mean, she was just going to pay it forward. And that's what she did for me. She paid it forward, and she asked Bob if he would talk to me. So Bob called me and asked me if I would come and talk to him about Timmy. And so I met him at the park, and we did our first interview, and he's been with me ever since. And
I think Bob and Arctic are the only two people that have been on Timmy's case longer than I have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've met some wonderful people going through this, but does it, like today, I'm grateful. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Everybody gets to have a good meal and everything. I'm grateful Timmy was found within 5 months because I just can't even imagine to have to go any longer than 5 months. So I have so much compassion for people that still have their loved ones out there still haven't found them. And
Right.
that's enough to drive a person insane. I mean, when he was found, it was a bittersweet moment because I at least knew that I had him.
Right.
And I'll never forget when they called and told me he was found. I broke, but at the same time, there was this relief about you. I call it a bittersweet moment because it's bittersweet. You have,
Right. You
and
have answers, and
well, yeah,
there's so many people that go without them.
right. And I've met families that still have their loved ones missing, and I met another family that their son was missing, and he was found 3 years later.
Mm.
And the same, not very, it's a little bitty town right next to Fredericktown. He was found in a little creek. They make this creek sound like it's this big roaring creek, but actually it's like a ditch to me.
Right.
It's not like water's running down it to knock you down. You know what I mean? It's not full of water all the time.
Right.
So for the stories that they gave me just didn't make any sense to me either after seeing the place for sure. It's like, no way. You tried to tell me his shoes came up with his body from the water? Not possible. You can't tell me that the water took the phone because that's not possible. If you saw this place, you would know what I'm talking about. The water's not powerful enough to do what they're saying that was done.
Right. And we know that. We've known that since
Yeah, well,
we got the pictures.
right.
They're
Sticking to their story.
Well,
I'm
they
praying
are
they're not.
resilient.
Right now they have, but I'm praying not in the long run because Mr. Steve did come and we took everything to the prosecutor. He's had a little over a month. I talked to him last week, and they've had a lot going on there with that place blowing up and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
the man did call me, and he said that he's going to look at it. He said, Barbie said, every time I sit down, he said to look at it. He said, something happens. I just haven't had time to, but he is going to do that. He told me.
Okay.
And I'm trusting that he's going to do the right thing because Mr. Steve gave him the evidence. I watched it. And
Right.
Bob Miller from the Lawless Files, he recorded the whole thing. So, well, praying that the truth's coming out. I mean,
I know that's been a whole other thing all by itself, that explosion and
yeah.
what's
Yeah,
going
they
on
started
there.
building that building right after Timmy was found.
Now, I don't know if you know, I'm pretty sure though that the land that was built on also belonged to the judge.
I'm not
Where
sure. It was right there. It's close, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure if the judge owned that land. No.
And I'll have to look it up, but I think
But that
that
land they just started digging there after Timmy was found. And I
yep,
was like, what are they building there? For the longest time, they didn't tell anybody. And they built that battery place. And it just blew up, 3 weeks ago or so?
3 weeks or so.
Yeah. So I know he's going through a lot dealing with that stuff, I'm sure. I'm patient. I've waited this long. I know the truth's going to come out. I have faith,
Right.
That's all I can do.
Yeah, and
But
yeah,
when you talk about the not lightning strikes, so that's something that really
that annoys me just as much as the whole, don't you just want to believe?
Oh, yeah,
You
that's
know,
what Jeff Johnson said to me. But the lightning strike thing is they said the 911 lightning had struck back in March. Or what was that? I think they said December.
does it
No,
usually,
March.
do you
No,
usually get,
this is what's really interesting. The highway, when I got there and started handing out flyers, the chief of police called me on the phone and asked me if he could talk to me. I said, sure. So I go over there and I start talking to him because the police station's like right there next to the courthouse. And then you got the
and
sheriff.
that's Eric Hovis, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I go down there and we got to talking, and he had heard me talking about them storage units. So he wanted to see the storage units, asked me if I'd ride with him. And I said, sure. So we get in the vehicle, we're riding down to the storage units, and I said something about this girl, Bobby Boone, that I had been hearing her name. And he goes, oh, she's been to jail before, but she's a pretty good girl. She's an honest person. And I thought, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard from a police officer. And I just
Because that is not what anybody else has said about Bobby Boone.
right.
And so here's the chief of police
Yeah,
sitting there
there's
talking about what a good girl she is, doesn't jive with anything that we've heard.
right. So then we go back, get out of the car and everything. I don't think anything of it. I just remember I kept thinking, that's strange that because I know what I heard sitting at that courthouse, and people would pull over and tell me all of these stories. I'm not going to get into them because it's hearsay.
Mhm.
But I heard a lot about Bobby Boone. So that's when you start going, well, man, this doesn't make sense to me. Why is all these people telling me this, but the chief of police is telling me a whole nother story? So I did it when I did the sunshine law request to him for that, because he let me know. It was him. He was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and there was two deputies in the back seat when we drove.
Mhm.
I did a sunshine law for that body cam because he let me know I was on body cam. They all did. So I did the sunshine law request for that, and guess what? I got a letter that says, unfortunately, lightning struck again, and all of it's gone.
So 3 different body cams were taken out by a lightning strike.
I don't know how that happens. You have to talk to Mr. Steve
Did
about
anybody
that.
tell
Maybe
you
he can
how
explain. I never thought of asking him how that happens. Maybe he can explain it.
did anybody explain how the first lightning strike happened in the middle of winter?
They said lightning struck the month before or so. And then this is what's really interesting.
Do you guys get thunderstorms often in January?
No, that's a joke. Thunderstorms, maybe a snowstorm. No. And then the strangest thing to me was when I said something to them about when I got in the vehicle. That's why that body cam was so important to me, because when I got in the vehicle, the first thing Eric Hovis said to me was, why do I not know about the 911 being down? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, the 911's down. He goes, I wasn't told about it. He goes, and my 911 calls go through that sheriff's office. He goes, I should have been notified if the 911 was down. Well, I thought that was a little strange to me. It's like, okay, so you're the chief of police. So
the chief of police didn't know that the 911 system recording system was
See,
down.
and all that conversation went on that body cam. That's why I wanted that body cam so much too, because he said that the sheriff and nobody down there at the sheriff's office told him that the 911 was down by lightning striking it. Now, isn't that strange? So then after that, we got back to the police station, and he says to me, he says, will you do me a favor? He said, and put it on speakerphone and call down there at the sheriff's office. And I go, I'll do that. I said, but they're not going to answer the phone to me. I said, because every time I've called them before, they kept telling me they'd have a deputy call me back, and they never did. And that's when I went off and I said, don't worry about it. Don't tell me you're going to have a deputy call me back, because I know you're not going to. I'll see you when I see you. I'm on my way. Well, when he's out there telling me that I couldn't prove that Timmy called 911, and then I'm talking to the chief of police about it. All of that is gone. Everything's just the 911 call got struck by lightning. Then you got after it was fixed, and I did this sunshine law request for that body cam, lightning struck again. So the body cam's go. I mean, I got a document to prove that. And when we do a next live, I will have that stuff together and I'll be able to show it to you. Because I have a document and it says, unfortunately, lightning struck again, and the same bill that is supposed to be repaired is this looks like the same exact one they gave me the first time from the 911 call.
Yeah, I remember that page.
Yep. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys just don't want me to have that cam, that video cam, because I know what was said.
Well, right. And just like, apparently lightning strikes as often as Jeff Johnson forgets to hit the button or loses the recordings in the interrogations.
Well, just like when I did the sunshine law request for them audios.
Because I think it's funny that as we're going through all of the recordings and all of the paperwork, every single interview that Jeff Johnson did, there is no audio.
Right.
Every single one. Oh, unfortunately, there is no audio with this. There's no audio with this one.
There's no audio with
is he that stupid? Or does he not know how the play button works? I mean, I have questions.
Well, that's the highway patrol, but I'm talking about the recordings of Caleb being in jail when I talked to him on the phone. Those have disappeared too. Now, I got some recordings of him talking to his girlfriend and his sister, but I got a document to show the phone calls between Caleb and I. They didn't give those to me, and those were important to me because...
Is that the one with the nudity?
I have no idea.
What you do, Barb?
The highway patrol was the nudity stuff. This was from Iron County Jail. And it's Caleb talking to his sister. It's Caleb talking to his girlfriend. It's Caleb talking to another girlfriend he had at the time.
Right.
And it's Caleb talking to all these people. But when I asked him specifically for the ones of Caleb and I talking, they're gone. They just vanished. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense to me, because if I had the ones of Caleb talking, I could prove that he lied. He talked to me 10 times and every story was different, and they're gone. Tell me where they're at, because I didn't get those either. But now I got the ones of him with his girlfriend in the bathtub. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff I got.
Hey, they gave you the ones of the girlfriend in the bathtub, but you didn't get. Other stuff had to be redacted because of nudity.
That's what they said. That's what the highway patrol said. But there's a difference between those and those recordings and the ones of Caleb in jail, because Caleb went to jail in Ironton.
Right. And how hard did you ever get anything other than the recordings from Ironton?
I didn't even get nothing.
Can you tell people why?
Well, first
because I think that's important for people to know.
Well, I got a bunch of excuses. I got that, the sheriff got arrested and went to jail. I don't know what happened there. So then I called there and I said, hey, I did the sunshine law request and I have not received anything. And the lady said, well, she's going to have them call me back. So what I did was I emailed her 3 times because she said she didn't get my sunshine law request. I called there and I asked for M. Yunt because I certified lettered it. I was told by a lawyer, certify letter it, send it in the mail, and track it, so you know exactly when they get their letters. So that's what I did. So when I called Ironton, because I didn't get nothing from them, I said, wow, I'm just getting all over the place. I asked him for that information, and the guy said to me, well, we're not going to give you that information. And I go, well, why can't I have the information? I go, I got a video. He goes, you got a video? well, how'd you get that video? I mean, he goes off. It was kind of funny. And I go, sir, because Caleb sent me the video. And then he goes, well, I talked to my lawyer, and my lawyer told me I don't have to give you nothing, and I'm not going to give you nothing. And I go, well, sir, I don't understand that. I did it illegally.
So the lawyer told him he didn't have to follow the law.
His lawyer, whoever his lawyer is, I don't know. Because he called me screaming at me. But when I asked, the interesting part about it is when I asked.
Maybe that's Caleb's lawyer.
Yeah. But when I asked the sheriff, well, the sheriff, he said he was the sheriff. When I asked him about that paperwork and stuff, he said to me, he goes, there's no M. Yunt. Like I said, when I called there, my paperwork said an M. Yunt signed for it because I had a tracking on it and everything. So that's what the lawyer that helped me told me, to make sure I did it that way so I would know who signed received them for a signature. You know, like if I send you something, I want a signature for it. That's what I did. So when I looked on the tracking thing, it said M. Yunt signed for my paperwork. So I called there and I asked for M. Yunt. And they answered the phone. They said, there's no M. Yunt here. There's never been an M. Yunt here, and there never will be an M. Yunt. And I had him on recording. I had my recorder. I was recording it. And I kind of was confused. And I said, well, that's kind of strange. I said, because I'm looking at my document right here. I said, I had a tracker on that. And I said, the tracker says M. Yunt signed for it. So in my recording, you can hear the two of them mumbling between each other. She's got a document. She's got a document. It's unreal. And then some lady gets on the phone and she says, well, let me go see if I can find that. And so she leaves. She comes back. She goes, I can't find it anywhere. Can you email me one? So I got a phone. I emailed 3 times. Didn't go through. I called her back and I said, hey, this email's not right. She gives me another email. Then I called her. Well, I didn't hear from her for 3 days. I gave them the 72 hours, and then I didn't hear from them. I called them back and asked her if she received it. She said she did, and then I still got nothing. Them recordings that I do have from that jail came from the Highway Patrol. They did not come from Ironton, where Caleb was in jail at. And then I talked to somebody there. I can't put out any names of this person that I talked to, but they have people that go in there and erase that. They know they have a backup person that can go in and erase anything they want, knows how to put the codes and everything. She said they call them little snitches for them. So,
what happened? So how long before all of this, or after all of this stuff happened, was the Ironton force? Did they go in under, or were they put under investigation?
I don't know what they were put under investigation for, to be honest with you.
But the sheriff was arrested, right?
Yes, he was in the hospital with COVID, almost died, and he got arrested. From what I understand, the man was actually a good man, and he was trying to have all his deputies he wanted to have investigated. And I was told that he was set up. I don't know for sure. That's hearsay that I was told. But he is not the sheriff there anymore. I know the other guy's the one that screamed at me. So I don't even know what to think about that mess. Because it's
so Ironton County has its own.
Yeah, it's a little bitty town close to Fredericktown. It's just a little bitty town. And then I saw pictures of the inside of that jail. I think they ended up even tearing the jail down. But they're associated with Madison County all the time, because when I sat at the courthouse, they were always there. Ironton County police cars were always there that said Ironton on the side of them. So I don't know what's going on in them areas, but something's not right.
Right.
somebody needs to be looked into. I don't think, and I'm not the only person that's been told lightning struck there too when they want their information.
Right. You're going to need to stop using that as an excuse. People are going to catch on.
I mean, I even called the prosecuting attorney, the secretary, and it was before the prosecutor that's in there now. I called her up. I said, "What's the deal with everything? Every time I want something, you guys tell me lightning strikes." She goes, "It's happening to me too. I don't understand it." So I don't know what to say on that. But it's coming to light. And not everything can be put in the darkness, doesn't it? Gets brought to light. Especially evil. Light overcomes evil.
It does. And we'll get there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we talked about this a few years ago. You know, it's going to come in its own time.
And I know what I know. There's just some things I cannot say because only Mr. Steve and I and the prosecutor know that.
Right.
So the evidence is there. I'm just praying that he does the right thing and looks into it. If anything, they should at the least, reopen the case and talk to these people. Because Timmy was found right after they did their last interview with Mike Busking. And it was like, bang, Timmy was found after that interview was done. So, and Caleb kept leading us the opposite way than where Timmy was. It was like he was purposely telling us that Timmy ran that way because he had to pee and didn't come back. I mean, there's so many different stories. He had to pee, didn't come back. Then he said somebody was chasing him because he was high and paranoid. I mean, I can't even remember all the stories.
And then he ran off as a woman.
Oh yeah. Then he was in trouble and he was going to prison. So he's on the run. And then the family was giving him too much pressure. So he's on the run for that. But I can prove that that's not the truth. I know Timmy's friend that picked him up from my house. We were standing right here where I'm talking to you right now. Timmy and I, before he walked out the store with his friend Clapper from work.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me a hug and everything. We were not having any issues to put pressure on Timmy. I was trying to love on Timmy and support Timmy because he was grieving his brother just like I was. And I was trying to keep myself together. And I had Timmy. I had to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just have to be okay because I have to be okay to do something to make somebody not have to go through this nightmare.
Right. But that's where, you know, you have something that is invaluable to most of us. And it's unfortunate.
I'll trade you.
But, you know, it's absolutely unfortunate. But you're the only one who can really help these people at the end of the day. Because I've not lost one of my children. They haven't gone missing. And people can learn from you.
Well, I'm gonna learn what? You become an investigator. You run around. You talk to everybody. You have to. It's crazy the things that you have to do. I mean, here we go. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is my bag. It says I never knew. I carried this bag around for a year. I never knew it said, "Let's go on an adventure." This isn't the adventure that I wanted, for sure. This is my bag. I carry it everywhere I go. Got my stories in it. And I have my petition thing right here. I got my petition in here signed from people that I go running when I go out running. You know, besides what people can sign on Facebook and stuff, I take this out and everywhere I go. If you see me, you see this bag and this in this bag, and you see my bracelet. And
Right.
if you're pumping gas, you're going to see me if I'm there, because I'll go up to you pumping gas. I don't know what else to do at this point in life. It's like, what else do? You just got to keep fighting, because I can't. I mean, I'm not going to die until God chooses for me to go. Because I'll tell you, in the beginning of all this, every day, every single day, I woke up. I thought, oh God, you didn't let me die last night. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then everybody would say, well, you're here for a purpose. I'm like, well, this is not the life I chose. I want to be making Thanksgiving like everybody else. I want to be cooking and having Thanksgiving with my kids tomorrow, but that's not even an option for me.
Right.
And for the way that they treat you is uncalled for. Somebody needs some new training.
Oh, that's for sure.
And then, then you got Timmy's debit card that was used. All right, the debit card was used, but when he was found, it was used at the 911 call was made at 4:40 in the morning. The debit card was used at 9:11 in the morning. It was used 3 times. Why? And then when he was found, it was in his wallet. So whoever used that debit card had possession of my son's body to put that debit card back in his wallet.
Right.
I'm sorry, I got to get it together here for a minute. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
It's just, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving more than any holiday, actually, because it's a day of being things that you celebrate, you're grateful for. So I'm grateful that I got to be my Michael and Timmy's mom, but if there's anything I can do to help someone else not have to live this nightmare and help them get even support, just support, just to have somebody there for you.
I'm just laughing here to myself right now because True Crime Web is in the chat and he says, I can attest in every meeting I've had, Barb has had the bag and shares more than just Timmy's stories. She shares the names of other families and their lost ones. And it it just reminds me of the when you and Steve went to eat that one day and you were chasing down the waitress or
we had to go down there one day where Timmy was found, and I was going around giving my bracelets out and my stories, and this girl comes up to me, she goes, management wants to speak to you. I go, huh? She goes, yeah, management. I go, oh, what, did I do something wrong? She goes, you need to go over there. So I went over to it was a lady, and I go, did I do something wrong? She goes, you can't be doing that. I go, well, I just gave it to the people that was up at your bar. They're not eating. I'm not going to go up to people that are eating. And then I gave her the stories, and I gave her bracelets, and she said, you're all right. And I went back to the table like a dog with tail between his legs. And I looked at Mr. Steve, and I go, I just got in trouble. He goes, yeah, I saw it. That's like, thanks. But
it just it goes to show, and like all the signs behind you, Barb hasn't been doing this just to get justice for Timmy. This has been a fight for all of these victims since day one, and they're not all people who have gone missing. They're people who, have obvious signs of different causes of death and, corruption. I'll just say it point blank, there's signs of corruption in all of these cases. Barb didn't make these all last night. She didn't make all these signs last night to put up here and show you guys, she's been doing this for
these
almost
signs couldn't have been made last night. These signs couldn't have been made last night.
She's been doing this for 3
years. In the morning.
It is not just about Timmy, and no matter how often we sit down with her and tell her, hey, you know what? Maybe you need to think about just Timmy's case right now. Just, focus on just Timmy's case right now. But she can't, because there are all these other families that are going through the same thing, and I think it's important for everybody to know that this isn't just about her son. It's that's where this started. But she wants everybody's family to have justice for their kids, not just one.
Well, when I was sitting at that courthouse, hold on, my chair's messed up. I got me chair rigged up here. But when I first started going up to the courthouse, and I would sit, it went from freezing cold to being 100 to 105 degrees. I mean, it was hot. It was amazing, the good people that I did meet there that were just, bring cold water or want to buy you lunch. I'm not going to eat, but they offered, and that was enough, Or I'd walk away from my chair and come back, there'd be a $20 bill in there, and they'd say, you need to put gas in your gas tank. There's good people there. But as I'm sitting there, I'm hearing about all these other cases I had no clue about, right? I'm like, man, what is going on in this place? Because I'm hearing too much stuff that just doesn't make any sense of other mothers. Oh, well, my granddaughter died, and this is what happened. And then you've got Ashley's mother, this is Ashley right here. This is Ashley.
Right. And I've seen the text messages from Ashley to her mother. And let me tell you, that girl, she knew. She knew.
Now,
yep.
He was found on the side of the road taking a nap. And guess who was with him? The last person that was with him was Bobby Boone giving him a ride. Imagine that. And then you've got, here, I'm just going to bring you with me. And then I made this poster right after Timmy was found because it's got everybody's picture on it.
Hey, look at all those pictures. All of those pictures.
These people,
they all need justice.
And you got this picture, which I already showed you. I don't know what happened to my light. And I just started making signs with everybody's picture on. There's Andrew Fox right here.
Andrew Fox is one of the guys from that was from out of town.
That hung himself.
That did something to himself just driving through Fredericktown.
Well, no, he was dating some girl or seeing some girl in Fredericktown. This guy is the case they just solved after 35 years. That's because this guy,
I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, remember I told you I went
twins,
to their,
the twin daughters.
Yeah, the twin daughters. That's their dad. And I didn't even know that. And then you see some of these people, their families are just contacted me and they're missing or they're not getting justice. And then you go to this side of the room and I've got all these missing. And then there's Timmy's. But that's not just the only signs I have. If you go out to my car, which it's cold and pouring down raining, I'm not going to the car.
Yeah, we don't need to go to the car tonight.
But I have huge signs like this one back here. And I would take a board, staple it on the back of them, drill a hole in them, and then take bungee cords, put around them, and stick them on the light posters, light poles at the courthouse. And so after Timmy was found, I had made a few of them. And actually my friend Gina, her neighbor and her daughter was the first ones to make any. And, oh man. So I thought, well, I need to make signs for everybody then. After Timmy was found, I thought there's too much crime in such a small community. I know there's crime everywhere. I hear that all the time, but we're talking about a town of 4,400 people. And that's not acceptable.
Right.
Because, I mean, look at what you see behind me. This is Fredericktown.
That's
So then after he was found and I was getting the run around, I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go sit at your courthouse with everybody's picture on it. So that's what I did.
right.
And and when spring hits, so this is part of why I wanted to do this podcast too, was because I need to do something that's going to help somebody else to stay sane. I can't sit in this house all winter and do nothing. I can make signs and I can do a podcast, but I can't. It's too cold and it's, we're supposed to be getting snow and all that to be able to do anything in the winter. And winter's rough. Winter is rough to sit at home and you can't do nothing. So if, hey, Timmy's case is not looked at and something's not done by spring, you'll find me at the courthouse again, because that's where
Right.
My last three, I have not been fishing. I love fishing. I haven't got to do anything because my life's become sitting at the courthouse when it's warm enough to do that. And on February the 28th, I will be at the courthouse. That'll be 3 years that Timmy came up missing this February. So I will have my signs and I will be sitting at that courthouse in February.
Mm-hmm.
February 28th. And then I sit there just to let them know I haven't went away. I don't know why that makes a difference, but to me it does. So I sit there and then I wait till it gets dark. I try to get out of there before it gets dark, but now I'm not even afraid anymore driving there in the dark or not. I don't care what they're going to do to me. They can't hurt me anymore than I already hurt. So
Right.
the way I look at it, if I die, I'm just going to get to go see Jesus and my boys anyway. So it ain't no big deal.
And then I'll just take over.
But I don't know what else to do with myself but to sit there. So I go there just to let them know I'm not leaving. And it's not that hard for them. That's what I don't understand. It's not that hard for them just to look at the case. Why is everybody being protected? Why is Caleb so protected? Why can he lie to me 10 times and it be okay? And then you're going to sit there and look at me and tell me, don't I just want to believe nothing bad happened to my son? Oh,
Well, yeah.
well,
And I mean, the fact that they sit there and talk to Caleb like he's their BFF and then turn around and talk to you like you're the dirt on the bottom of their shoes is enough reason for us to, want to make sure that there's another investigation, because they're obviously not, they're not doing their jobs if they're going to treat suspects, or in my opinion, I guess I should say suspects, like they're their bestie, and treat the mother of a young man who died under mysterious circumstances and treat her like trash because she questioned you.
So
that's a you problem. That's not a them. That's a them problem. That's not a Barb problem. That is a Jeff Johnson problem. That is a Sergeant Stolting problem. You want to treat people like trash and then turn around and pretend that you're the victim. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to come of it. We are watching you. We are bringing everything that we have to you because you wanted to treat a suspect better than you can treat the mother of a missing person.
I don't think that we're prepared for this. I don't think as a mother of missing or as a murderer, either one. I don't believe that, unaliving, I guess I was supposed to say, sorry. When you go to a police officer and you're talking to them, where's the what happened to the compassion?
Well, Jeff Johnson's compassion only goes from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah. I got a whole conversation about that. Hold on, though. I got to plug you up. It says I'm low. I I called him one night. It was at 11:30 at night. I'm laying in bed, getting ready to go to bed myself. And this girl calls me. She's frantic. She's crying. She says, I found that there's a dead body here, and she's going on. She goes, I don't know what to do. And I mean, she's crying. Well, at that point, I'm crying. She goes, I think it might be your son. And she's in Fredericktown, right? So why would I not believe her? Are you there?
Yeah.
And so she goes, I go, well, hold on. And I thought, well, I don't know what to do with this information. I guess I'm supposed to call Jeff Johnson. I had his phone number. So I call him on the phone. And I told him what's going on. And he said that he was going to check into it. Then the next morning, he called me and he went off on me and told me I had no business calling him at 11:30 at night. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I did not know what to do. I said, I just called you because I knew you were in charge of Timmy's case. I said, I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. He goes, well, I got woke up at 11:30 and I didn't get to go back to sleep last night. I've had no sleep because of you. Don't call me anymore except for the hours between 8 and 4. And then I would call him between 8 and 4 after that. And I did not bug him. It'd be different if I called him every day. But he wouldn't even answer the phone to me. And I have text messages of that. I texted him. I go, why did you tell me I could call you from 8 to 4, but you won't even answer the phone to me between 8 and 4 now? It was almost like the man hated me and I never understood what I did to him. I mean, I question that a lot. What did I
You
do
told him to work.
that don't like me, or what did I do to him?
You told him to do some work, Barb. He wanted to kick his feet up on his desk and say, don't you just want to believe? Well, Jeff Johnson, I wanted to believe that you would do your job, but apparently you didn't think so. So now we did it for you.
Yes, True Crime Web Foundation. It's been a blessing. Because there's no way this would have been done. I could still keep screaming at the mountaintops, but if you don't have somebody that will help you and investigate and look at it for what it, do a job and look at the evidence and what's there. And that's what I told Mr. Steve when I met him. I said, if you can look at this stuff and tell me that there's no crime committed here, I have to accept it. I just wanted somebody. And all the families do. I've talked to numerous families. All of the families want is somebody just to sit down when they have questions, be pleasant to us and explain it to us. If it's not a crime, then just explain the crime, that there's not a crime or why there's no crime or why you don't see a crime. But I know my son called for 911, said his friend is threatening him. They led me to believe for 5 months until, I can tell you the date, June 17th, is when I finally went down there and banged on their doorbell. And then they leave you standing out there. They got cameras right there looking at you. They know who you are. And they're looking at you through at their cameras. This is how I felt. I can't tell you this is what they're doing, because I would be lying if I told you that's exactly what they're doing. But how I felt was they're sitting there looking at me on the camera, and they're going, who's going to go out there and talk to her? I'm sorry, I'm getting, ugh. It makes me angry every time I talk about that part. Then they come out and they're going to argue with me. And he says, well, I said, I want the paperwork that was written out of the 911 call. He goes, I can't give that to you. You got to get a lawyer. I said, sir, I don't think so. I said, I don't think I have to have a lawyer for that. I said, it's called the Sunshine Law request. He acted like he didn't know what that is. Which he knew what it was.
Yeah,
or maybe
I don't know. He might not be bright enough to understand what the Sunshine Law is.
Well, I know
Jeff Johnson's kind of a moron.
No, it wasn't Jeff Johnson then. Jeff Johnson wasn't involved.
Oh, okay.
At that time. I mean, when I did that, Jeff Johnson wasn't there yet. But the interesting thing, Jeff Johnson was on the case, but Jeff Johnson didn't get that paperwork. So finally, that was the first time the sheriff ever spoke to me. June 17th. Now we're talking from February to June.
Oh, is that the recording?
No, that's when she gave me the paperwork finally. She called. I talked to them.
Oh, okay.
I talked to Polk. He's the same guy that was arguing with me when I went there the first time. He's
Right.
the same officer, deputy, that was arguing with me, telling me I couldn't prove that Timmy made a 911 call.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Then it went from, I said, oh, I absolutely can. He was at the C bar and he was alive and he was fine and he was well at 1:30 in the morning. I said, and then at 4:40, he made a 911 call. He said, well, you can't prove he made the 911 call. So then we're in this battle of, could I prove if he made a 911 call? I was like, well, who else took his phone and made a 911 call?
Right.
So that was the same officer. So that was in the beginning. So now we're going forward to June 17th. On June 17th, I went back there and they sent him back out to talk to me again. And he told me he didn't have to give me no paperwork. He didn't have to do anything for me. He said I had to hire an attorney. Well, so I said, okay. I told him about the sunshine law. He acted like he didn't know what it was. So I just left and I walked over to the courthouse. I talked to the ladies in the courthouse because I got pretty close to the ladies in the courthouse. There's some good women in there.
Mm-hmm.
They kept an eye on me outside.
Right.
While they were working. And they gave me these brochures with all these lawyers on there. And I said, I'm just a little confused. Why do I have to do this? Why can't I have a copy of what was written down on that 911 call? And I go outside, put all my boards back in the car, get ready to leave. And this lady pulls up with flowers. She had to give me these flowers. I started crying. Then she wanted to pray. And somebody wants to pray, I'm praying.
Right.
And she prayed with me. And then my phone rang. And it was Katie, the sheriff. And she said, I heard you were down here and you're wanting some paperwork. And I said, yeah. She goes, oh, well, I got it ready. She said, I think she thought I was gone because I had everything in the car already. I just hadn't left yet because that lady had stopped me. Because when I'm there, you know it. My signs are everywhere.
Right.
And there was no signs up because I'd already put them in the car. So I said, oh, I'll be down in just a minute then. So I went down there and it was hot. And she goes, oh, why don't you come on in and cool off? And I thought, this is a little strange. I've been begging for this. You didn't ask me to come in here and warm up. You've never offered for me to cool down before. So
right.
This is nuts to me. So she invites me in and we get in her office. And as we're walking in, I have to walk by that other deputy that was arguing with me out in the parking lot twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I just smiled at him and kept on walking. And we got in her office and I put my hand out to shake her hand. And I said, did we get started on the wrong? I mean, what happened here? And she goes, oh, no. She goes, you don't have to hug me. Or she goes, you don't shake my hand. Let me hug you. And I thought, well, great. She's hugging me now. We're going to get somewhere.
Right.
That's the only time that ever happened. But she did give me the paperwork. And when I got in the car, I got to looking at the paperwork. I'm like, wait a minute. So the Highway Patrol's got this case. All these people got this case. And they're all saying Timmy was high on and paranoid and running because he was paranoid on drugs. But that's not what the paperwork says. I'm looking at the paperwork. It said he says his friend is threatening him. So your friend's threatening you. So don't you look for the person that's scared? Because they never did. I mean, when the cops got there in 5 minutes, they never looked for Timmy. They arrested Trevor.
No.
They arrested Trevor. And when I asked Jeff Johnson about that, I said, well, why did you arrest Trevor when Caleb had warrants too? Why wouldn't you arrest both people that had warrants? He said, well, because Caleb and Mike Busking was in the house. I go, how do you know? Because they told me so. I go, oh, really? I said, so their words are gospel, and my son being gone now and can't defend himself doesn't mean nothing that he said his friend's threatening him. The only friend he has is Caleb. So don't you think you need to talk to Caleb a little more? And they walked me to my car, and then, well, you have the recordings. You've heard them.
Right.
You said of how that went when I called him afterwards.
Right.
The day I was there was August the 12th. So
I wonder if he's going to cry tomorrow when he finds out that we talked about him on a podcast tonight.
He don't care. He told me to stay away from you people.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't want people to know that he is a shitty investigator who doesn't want to get off his ass to do anything and would rather just hope that you believe Timmy
Oh,
just
don't you just
walked off onto
believe
it,
nothing?
walked off and died. Well, sorry, sweetie, but there's a few of us that know you're full of shit and know that a 25-year-old man doesn't just walk off and die because that's what you want us to believe.
Well, you start getting suspicious when you're getting all these lies. You know, I mean, why did I on June 17th, why did I have to go get that report? And why didn't the highway patrol or somebody else look at what that report was saying? Because they were going along with what Caleb said, that Timmy was high and he said he was being chased. That's not what the paperwork says.
But
Why
what
would
did
the
he
highway
say?
patrol not seen that?
What did Caleb say he had on him? Xanax, right?
Xanax, yeah.
How many people get paranoid on Xanax?
I don't know anybody get paranoid.
Is that what's that? That's not what Xanax does. You take Xanax, I take Ativan. I know what they're for. They don't make me extra paranoid.
Well, and that really doesn't even matter. When somebody, I mean, you want to make a test run? We do a test run right now. I call 911. I guarantee you they'll knock on my door. I've done it.
Right.
I have a neighbor who lives right down the street from me. I was at her house one night and she accidentally called 911 with her phone, and the police called her back, asked her if she was all right.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah. And she hung up the phone and I started laughing because I was sitting there. I start laughing. I go, oh, you're going to have police knocking on your door here in a few minutes. She goes, oh, no. I go, oh, yeah. I said, they're going to show up. They want to see you. That's what I thought it was. And they did. It wasn't even 5 minutes later. The police were knocking on her door and I started laughing. I said, I told you, police are going to be knocking on your door. They want to see you. That's what I thought, well, that's what they did is what I told her. But apparently that's not what they all did. So why would you not look for Timmy? You want my theory? I'll give you my theory. My theory is that Trevor was out in front of that house and they did something to Timmy. They knew they were doing something to Timmy and he was taking one for the team.
Yeah, that's my opinion as well.
Arrested and get released anyway. That's what I believe. But that doesn't mean it's true. That's just my beliefs.
I believe that as well. I think that Trevor was
Because why else would you arrest Trevor? And Caleb was there with warrants too. Why would you arrest one person? Why was that?
And why would you just? I just can't. I can't even. Okay, when they go, well, Caleb told us. Well, what the? Where?
Oh, no, they didn't just tell me that. Caleb told him. Caleb and Mike Busking both told him.
Oh, yeah. Well, great pillars of the community right there.
And it's like, well, how do you know? Because they said so. I said, oh, so what they said is true. But what my son says on this paperwork, because see, at that time, I had the paperwork. They were still saying Timmy said he was being chased. That's how accurate they were. I knew more than they did because I had the paperwork saying his friends threatening him. They were still going with what Caleb said, that he was being chased.
Right. And I'm sorry, everybody. I know we're kind of going off here. But this has been 2.5 years for me of this. Almost 3 years for Barb. The ridiculousness. The things that we have heard, but it's just unbelievable. And then I remember the day that Stolting called you, and you made that recording.
Yeah,
and
afterwards,
I'm not even gonna lie, I was about to take a road trip. I was like, nope, this is not okay.
I was stunned.
I was so angry.
What makes you want to fight the most too, though, through all of it too, is that when I sat at that courthouse and started hearing about all these people that have died and nobody's doing anything, I I don't have, and they're scared to. A lot of them are afraid to say what they know and the things that they've told me. They're afraid to say anything. They call me on the phone and they tell me what's going on in their lives and who's doing what. But it's hearsay for one. It's rumor mill. I understand that, but there's a lot of these people have other family. They have grandkids and they have other kids that they're afraid something will happen to if they speak up. But see, they didn't plan on me. It happened with my son and me not having anything. And I think sometimes when you have nothing to lose, you're more dangerous,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not afraid to speak out because what are you going to do? I really am not as scared to worry about what they're going to do to me.
Right.
I'm not afraid to die. I know where I'm going, and I'm going to see my beautiful kids' smiling face again. So that's what's the problem with some of the other families is that they're afraid.
Right. They do still have something.
Well, they took my everything I had left. And I'm not just going to walk away from that. And Caleb's getting up tomorrow morning and he's
and girl, let me tell you, I have been doing this with you again for 2.5 years now. I'm not going anywhere, as we've talked about numerous times before. Once Parker's ready and he and I are moving to Missouri so that we can help with Timmy's legacy, and so that we can make sure that justice comes, period. Because I've told you before, I have the utmost respect for the police. I the ones that helped me when I was going through the domestic stuff were amazing. But let me tell you something. If I sat down and told them all of this, they would be on the road to Missouri themselves.
Me because
going, what is happening here? We're going to go investigate this ourselves because no.
And that's what's part of it.
They've been absolutely incredible, and to have police officers who do literally everything for you, who are there for you and your children, and who have helped you to what you have to go through is appalling. Like, these police officers that help me would be so disgusted by the way that you're being treated. They would come to Missouri.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, so Caleb, you got, and then there's a recording. I have it of one. I don't call them investigations or interrogations. I call them interviews, because in one of them it says Caleb's walking in the room. You can tell it's Caleb. He says it's him, the detective. And I guess Caleb must have been looking around in the room where to sit.
Well, I know they acted like they were on a date or something. Oh, come on in, sit down.
Oh no, listen. They said man, it haunts me when I hear it. It says it's like Burger King. Have it your way. When Caleb's looking, that's their exact words. It's like Burger King. Have it your way. That's his exact words to Caleb. Is that normal? Because they didn't say have it my way and that's like Burger King and please have a seat and treat me like they did him.
Yeah, and he didn't even bother to show up. He no called, no showed for his what is that? His lie detector. No big deal.
He said he would do a lie detector test. They got the lie detector test set up. After it got set up, he asked for a lawyer. So he didn't take the first one. So then later on, he goes to the highway patrol, go to talk to Amber, his girlfriend. Caleb answers the door. Caleb says, well, I'll do one now, tomorrow. And they said, okay, we'll set it up for 10 o'clock tomorrow. We'll come get you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And he said, okay. They went to Caleb's house to pick him up at 10 o'clock. Caleb was gone, and they've never spoke to him since.
Right. Well, they can't because he's got a lawyer now, remember? Well, we
Oh,
can't
yeah.
talk to
And
him.
that's another thing. I said, well, I guess I watch too much Dateline. Because on Dateline, if you find a person that's deceased and they get a lawyer, and then you got a suspect and you're questioning the suspect and they have 10 different stories, they're lying, you're catching them in lies, you still keep questioning them. Well, I was told, well, he's got a lawyer. And I said, well, I don't care if he's got a lawyer. I guess I watch too much Dateline, because on Dateline, they'll question you with your lawyer still there. They don't just let you go. You're gone free. You got a lawyer, so you're just free. No consequences of nothing. And that's why I think it's made me want to fight harder when you're sitting there and you're hearing these gory stories of all these poor young adults being unalive.
Well, no.
And nobody's doing anything, and then they want to treat you like crap and just push you away like you're a nobody. And that's what they did to me. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, I never felt like I was anybody, but come on, you're treating the people that were there at the scene of whatever happened better than you're even talking to me. And then, like I said, when I first showed up there and got out, started handing out flyers, one of the deputies gave us the finger. I mean, come on. So you're thinking when you drive there and you start doing that, which I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to find my son. I was just desperate to find my son. I did not know what else to do but to show up there, because they wouldn't even have a deputy call me back when I was calling them. But when you're doing all that and you're sitting there and all these people pull up to you and they start telling you about their families dying and this happened and that happened, it's like you feel like you're in a twilight zone. It's like, what kind of world did I just drive into? Because I've always believed in law enforcement. They've always been good to me, and they've always done their jobs as far as I was ever concerned.
And to be fair, okay, just so everybody knows, there is one detective who went above and beyond and did the most amazing job on Timmy's case, and that was Detective Monroe.
Yeah,
the very first on Timmy's case, and he was wonderful. You know, he did have a warrant for Timmy's
let me tell you
phone.
something. This is how wonderful he was. There's a lot of stuff I have that if I didn't do the Sunshine Law request to Monroe, I wouldn't have it, because the Highway Patrol didn't give it to me. I got it from Monroe.
In fact, Monroe did more in that month?
2 weeks.
2 weeks that he had.
He was on.
The Highway Patrol has done in almost 3 years.
He was on the case for a week. Then he went on vacation for a week, and then he was back and worked that other week. And when we told him everything that we had been hearing, that's why he handed it over to the Highway Patrol, because he didn't want to hand it to the sheriff either. We didn't want him to. We begged him not to. But what we also found out about these other cases that were being taken care of from the Highway Patrol, it's like, I did the happy dance at first, man. I was like dancing around with my friend Gina. I go, man, the Highway Patrol, they're going to get them. They're going to figure this out. And then I get phone calls from other family members for the same Highway Patrol. Then I was like, but
what we did, something that we did learn with all the papers that came in, is that Monroe kept an eye on Timmy's case. He was requesting updates and would come back and look at the files after he was off the case. And, believe what you want to believe, but I think that Monroe was not, personally, I think Monroe wasn't okay with how Timmy's case was handled after he came off of it. I think that he was disappointed. He did check in and, and found that they hadn't done anything. And I'd love to talk to him about it sometime. I don't think he can, but I do think that he was checking up because he didn't think the Highway Patrol was going to do their job. I think he knows their reputation.
Yeah, because it seems like everybody you talk to, I talked to my senator. I talked to a lot of people. They seem very interested. They asked me to send them stuff. I sent them the stuff they wanted, the information they wanted. And then they talked to you a couple of times, then poof, it's like they vanish. They won't call you back. They don't do nothing. It's like,
Well, just let you know,
especially when he
there
tells
was
me
the
to shut
one
up.
there was the one that you were talking to, and you were like, "Why didn't he ever call me back? Why didn't he ever call me back?" And you showed me his business card. Well, his one of his main sponsors was the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yeah.
He's not going to go against them.
I called my own state senator, talked to him. He talked to me for like an hour and 45 minutes driving to Jeff City. He listened to everything, very polite, nice man, asked me to send him a few things. I sent him a few things. I talked to him another time. He said he was going to go in there and he wasn't going to say anything and just kind of check around and see what was going on in that town. And then after that, I tried to get a hold of nothing. I've called and left messages with his secretary, and she wrote it down, and he's never called me back. So I just kind of left him alone. It's like it's not getting me anywhere. I'm
Right.
But
yeah, you know, we most of us have probably seen the hit job they tried to do on Bob Miller when he exposed them for the officers' Bill of Rights in what Gerardo County, is that it?
Cape Girardeau.
Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
You know, Bob Miller did an excellent article a few months ago about this officer that has gotten off numerous times with excessive force complaints by paying off the families with the state money and having NDR signed or NDA signed, and they're getting away with excessive force because of the officer's Bill of Rights. And I can't quite explain that all what that all is to you guys tonight. Yeah. But I would like to have Bob on one of these days to explain the officer Bill of Rights to you. But the few things that I do know is that other officers can't speak out against an officer. Elected officials are not allowed to speak out against officers. Body cam footage does not have to be released in the case of an officer
beating somebody,
being charged with, you know, or being investigated for excessive force or whatever. They don't have to release those things to you. That's in the officer's Bill of Rights. Nobody can speak out against them. You know, that's the kind of thing, and I think it's there are 13 states that have adopted this officer Bill of Rights to protect their officers from, you know, these complaints getting out.
Well, I think they should have.
And I'd love to have Bob on to explain this to everybody, because it's actually very disturbing once you read into it.
And the other thing is, when I tried to make a complaint because they did not look for Timmy when he made a 911 call. They didn't look for him. That I was told that they got immunity for that. I said, for not doing your jobs? You get immunity for that? I thought that's what your job was.
And it's not immunity. They call it immunity, but it's not. It's the officer's Bill of Rights that is protecting them. So they do not have immunity.
So if I call 911 right now and say somebody's trying to kill me, and they show up and I'm gone, and they don't ever look for me, that's okay?
No, they say it's okay. But that's where, you know, this kind of stuff comes in, and people speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monroe, I'm just grateful for him, because there is so many things I would not know about if it wasn't for the report that he gave me. But Monroe's not from there. That's why Monroe handed it over to the Highway Patrol, was because it's an hour and 40 minutes from here. And he said, I don't understand. We know he's missing there. He says, I don't understand why I have this case. And I said, because I was told I had to make the missing persons report from where I live. And he goes, oh, okay, that makes sense. He goes, but I shouldn't have this case when we know he's missing in Fredericktown, Missouri. So anyway, I guess we lost her, but thank everybody for being here tonight. I really appreciate all of you. Chris, my sister, Dago, Mr. Steve. I can't see all of them. And all of you guys, thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a fabulous, happy Thanksgiving and a good meal. Love you all. Bye.